To begin today's topic, we will explain in simple terms the Becker's-Cause theorem in the context of divorce. Becker's-Cause theorem states that a husband and wife would both consent to a divorce if and only if they both are expected to be better off divorced than married. Laws that regulate the pattern and breakdown of marriages and divorces in Australia have changed considerably in the last 2 decades, with the introduction of the Family Law Act in 1976. After the introduction of the no-fault divorce law, the number of divorces increased at a rate of 1.9% that year. With this in mind, the question we aim to tackle is, has the no-fault divorce law change directly impacted the increase in divorce rates? Although divorce may seem easier after the implementation of the new Family Law Act, according to Becker, the change in law should not affect the divorce rate.
This hypothesis is based on the observation that a fault-based divorce regime gives each spouse a right to continue marriage and that a no-fault regime gives each spouse a right to divorce. Suppose now that Brad's gain to marriage is 50 and Angelina's gain to divorce is 100. For fault divorce to occur, Brad must consent. Will he? Yes, Angelina will transfer, for example, 25 to Brad to gain his consent to divorce, making them both gain to divorce at 75, being better off. Now, will they divorce under no fault? Yes. Brad attempts to prevent Angelina from dissolving the marriage, but he is unsuccessful, as he is only willing to offer a maximum of 50 to Angelina, and she demands at least 100 to stay married. Thus, it will occur regardless of whether consent is required. Coase illustrates that regardless of the change in law, marital status will be unaffected because goods are perfectly transferable when there is no transaction cost.
However, we believe that there are a number of reasons why the Coase theorem may fail to hold, implying the rise in divorce rates is more related to the law change than we think. There are a number of inefficiencies in his theorem, such as large transaction costs and transferability of public goods, that is not considered, which could influence the divorce rate drastically. Firstly, transaction costs exist and relevant. Think of transaction costs as being negotiating costs between the two spouses. These negotiating costs might be the time spent and displeasure felt because of negotiating. When these transaction costs exceed the benefit of getting divorced, under fault law, they will remain married. However, under no-fault law, divorce will occur because neither spouse can bribe the other to stay married, regardless of transaction costs.
Situation is when the gains to marriage are in the form of public goods, or goods that are consumed by both spouses. A public good cannot be transferred or divided within a marriage. Under the fault regime, the situation is the same as previous. Under no fault, however, the analysis is affected by the presence of the public good within marriage. When Brad's entire gain to marriage was transferable, he could induce Angelina to remain married. Now, however, Brad can only offer 30 to Angelina, as the other 70 is non-transferable, as it is a public good. So, Angelina divorces Brad. Using real-life anecdotes to illustrate this problem further, we will use children as an example of a public good. Zelder in 1993 did a study and found that under the no-fault law, 23% of couples got divorced as their grounds of negotiating lowered. This lowered because a lot of their income was spent on their children, which they can no longer be transferred to another spouse. In conclusion, our findings suggest that there is in fact an increase in divorce rates after introducing the no-fault law, explained through the existence of transaction costs and the non-transferability of public goods. This doesn't highlight a causal effect, however, it is a large variable that has influenced the increased rate and should be investigated further. Furthermore, the most important implication of these findings for lawmaking is that too many divorces occur under no fault, using an economic efficiency standard. So some people get divorced who would be better off jointly if they remained married. In other words, economically inefficient divorces occur under no fault, which do not occur under fault. Thus, we aim to make a recommendation to policymakers to eliminate the no fault so that marriage will be preserved when it is economically efficient to do so.